Now, of course, the Supreme Court has yet to rule officially on Roe v. Wade, but in anticipation of that and the upcoming midterm elections, the Department of Homeland Security is warning of more violence this summer. In a bulletin from the National Terrorism Advisory System, DHS said, quote, "In the coming months, we expect the threat environment to become more dynamic as several high-profile events could be exploited to justify acts of violence against a range of possible targets." In other words, a repeat of summer 2020. Mostly peaceful protests, right? Well, actually, we saw riots everywhere. Antifa went Mad Max on Portland. They're still there. The murder of George Floyd sparked riots in Minneapolis and beyond. Looters targeted stores all across Manhattan and in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The city was on fire after the shooting of Jacob Blake. So how do we calm this threat down before we see another summer 2020? Businesses and families cannot afford more violence like that. All right, let's meet tonight's Man Panel, shall we? We've got conservative strategist and Z Lab's public relations VP, Chris Barron, is back. Let's go Rangers. I'm sure that's what he's saying with that hockey stick. Yeah. We've got Fox News contributor and host of the Richard Fowler Show, Richard Fowler, and the director of the Libertarian Institute. I will see him at Freedom Fest and maybe see you there as well. Scott Horton is back. So let's discuss this a little bit, Chris, because I almost think that, you know, what you're seeing now in terms of the way Congress selectively punishes certain groups of people, that it almost encourages violence in a way.
It absolutely does. And what's so unbelievable is that tomorrow Congress is going to begin their show trials for January 6th. And the same people who use the inflammatory and incendiary rhetoric that led to an attempted assassination against a Supreme Court justice are going to tell you that President Trump should be held responsible for the violent activity on January 6th. They will say this with a straight face. They will say this pretending like what happened today didn't happen. We have Chuck Schumer saying far, far worse than President Trump ever said in March of 2020, and now we have seen the direct response to that kind of rhetoric. And by the way, look, they've been doing this for years. For years, the left has been attempting to dehumanize conservatives, dehumanize Trump supporters. The end result of that is when you tell people that someone is a Nazi over and over and over again, when you say our opponents are not just wrong, that they're evil, that they're not valued parts of society, they shouldn't be protected, then you can't be surprised when this kind of violence takes place. We should make it clear that violence of any type is wrong, always, period, end of story.
All right, so, you know, Richard, obviously there is a big and different kind of push for gun control on Capitol Hill right now, but when people read stuff like that, and they also read that police response times are slower because many departments have been scaled back in light of the defund police movement, you know what people do? They go and get guns. Sometimes they don't know how to use them, but they want self-protection because of bulletins like this. It sort of stokes the climate of fear unnecessarily, doesn't it?
Well, a couple things, Katie. Number one, I'll say this: rage is rage and violence is violence, no matter if it comes from the right or it comes from the left. And we should be doing everything in our power as our country to address it, right? That's number one. And I think number two is this, and this means that no matter where you're a big city or a small city, you should be doing everything in your power to protect the citizens that are part of your city. And that means making sure that police have the resources that they need to do it. Here in the nation's capital, what our mayor has done is she's increased the money to police departments so they can have the resources that they need to do what they need to do. With that being said, when you look at this DHS report, what you find is this: there's a lot of folks out there who need mental health therapy. There are a lot of folks out there who need help. And what's being debated on Capitol Hill as we speak is how do you make sure the folks that need help and that need therapy aren't getting access to weapons, aren't getting access to guns like we saw that what happened in Buffalo or what happened in Texas just a couple of days ago. And so we've got to make sure that this goes beyond political party, and this goes beyond this is about making sure that the wrong folks don't get weapons that can kill people. And I think beyond that and beyond those issues, we should also be doing everything in our power to make sure that our Congress works. I heard Congress Senator Mike Leon just a couple minutes ago, and he's right. Our government is dysfunctional, but that dysfunction happened far before Donald Trump. That dysfunction actually happened in the early 2000s when Congress stopped actually coming together and passing bills. There was once a time where Democrats and Republicans found the things that they agreed upon, and they passed bills.
Oh, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, where are you now, old gents? I want to bring Scott in because we're running out of time.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. So, Scott, DHS, they're the ones putting out this bulletin. Should DHS really be deciding and telegraphing who is dangerous in this country?
No, of course not. I mean, this whole conversation is completely absurd. The federal government of the United States of America is the most dangerous and violent organization on the face of the earth. The greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, as Martin Luther King said back in '68. Actually, Mao was worse than '68, but clearly that applies now to the United States of America. And sorry, but again, to bring up the same thing over and over now, it's 16 weeks, Kennedy, since our Secretary of State met with the Russian foreign minister while we're fighting a proxy war right on Russia's border, which means that Biden and Blinken are the most dangerous men ever to inhabit the Oval Office. They should be driven out of power immediately before they get us all killed.
Well,
and then now this abomination, the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, all of them should just, the entire, anyway. Biden helped usher through this Department of Homeland Security back in the Bush years. They said it was to protect us from al-Qaeda and foreign terrorists. And now, of course, they're being unleashed against American dissidents who, of course, hate the federal government. Our centrist politicians and establishment have proven themselves absolutely horrible and unqualified stewards of this government. They know that people absolutely despise them. And so they're trying to claim that anyone who opposes them is a dangerous extremist.
Anyone with an American flag or anyone who's a constitutionalist is a danger to society. All right, man panel, I command thee to stick around. Much more with them a little later on. Coming up, out-of-touch lady wanker, Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow bragged about her driving a new electric car from Michigan to D.C. in a Marie Antoinette moment that made even the Kelliest greenies gag. Blech. Watch.
On the issue of gas prices, after waiting for a long time to have enough chips in this country to finally get my electric vehicle, I got it and drove it from Michigan to here this last weekend and went by every single gas station and didn't matter how high it was.
Is Liberace still alive? Sorry. I was laughing all the way to Washington, nibbling my expensive cake, cackling at the poor, starving in the food pantries. Tee-hee! What a dolt. These bubble-wrapped rubes should have absolutely no say in the lives of people they're totally removed from and insensitive to. Deb, the average electric vehicle costs 56,000 clams. The median salary of long-suffering Michiganders, you mock, 59K. You think every Tom, Dick, and Harbaugh can plunk down almost 60 G's to scoff at the less fortunate like you do? This is why everyone hates Washington. These do-gooders think their every move is an act of benevolence, and the federal government needs to force the market to move in some moral direction. Oh, go huff gas, Deb. We don't need mercantilist politicians forcing people to go electric. People are already choosing to buy electric vehicles. When they can afford them, distorting the market because Debbie does Teslas will hardly save the planet. Electric vehicles are great, and people love them. But people also love CrossFit, and that's just as annoying to listen to. People like Debbie Stabenow don't care how people are suffering, and her solutions are out of reach and beyond insulting to families who are just trying to afford gas and groceries without some authoritarian gas bag deriding them at every painful turn. Remember when Stephen Colbert went on yet another unfunny tear and said he doesn't care if gas goes to 15 a gallon because he drives a Tesla? Someone needs to drive these condescending kooks to a silent retreat so we don't have to hear them snobbily opine about how much better they are because society is worse off with this kind of thinking, and that's the memo. Gas prices hitting another high today. The national average now $4.95 a gallon. Remember last year when it was half that, you say? I do. And there's no sign prices are coming down anytime soon. On another note, not only are EVs expensive, they're hard to get. 1 in 70 of the world's 1.2 billion cars is electric. So why do the tree huggers think we can instantly get off gas? We can't. The Man Panel is back. Chris Barron, Richard Fowler, and Scott Horton. So, Chris, I will start with you. What a Marie Antoinette moment for Debbie Stabenow. What do you make of it?
It's just insane. I mean, remember, these are the same people who hold themselves out as the champions of the working class. Debbie Stabenow not only is not a champion of the working class, she doesn't know what the working class cares about or needs, and quite frankly, she doesn't give a crap. She's fantastic. It's just unbelievable. And to watch the kind of like smug, condescending delivery there, this almost like, imagine being an average person at home watching that and thinking, that's the answer? The answer is like what your $15 an hour minimum wage is supposed to get me a $60,000 car. Like, grow up, get a life, people. These people need serious help.
Should I get a Rivian or a Tesla? I'm not sure. Richard, we're still on gas. Let's just admit it. Gas is expensive. Not cool, man.
Yeah, there's no question that the price of gas is really expensive right now. And I'm not sure that was the best choice of words by Debbie Stabenow in that comment there. I think, she sort of spoke in jest, and I think the jest was too jestly, to be honest with you, Kennedy.
Yes, I'll take the term justly. The judges will allow it. So it's interesting because Janet Yellen before this panel said, I was really surprised that inflation got as high as it did, but we had supply chain issues, and it's really hard for people to afford things now, and I didn't see it coming. But it's interesting how Janet Yellen used to chair the Fed, but she doesn't talk about monetary policy very much. Isn't that where a lot of this emanates from?
Of course. Kennedy, the Fed is always going to blame any kind of supply and demand shift somewhere or a supply chain shift and avoid the root cause, of course, is monetary inflation. And they could not even have this massive Leviathan federal government or their murderous world empire without central banking. And then as a result of this inflationary money, we have people thrown out of their houses. They're, working class people who just rent for a living, hourly workers. Their wages are the last thing to catch up with the rising cost of living all over the place. And the economy is just so distorted, and regular people just absolutely suffer. Ron Paul was and is right about this. We need a gold standard, 100% gold standard as far as any government money is concerned, and then let any other free market competing currencies take place, not be taxed and compete in the market. But the Federal Reserve System must be destroyed before it destroys the United States of America.
I don't disagree with you on either of those things. Bring back the gold standard and the Fed. What would happen if we did those two things, Scott?
Well, what would happen is we would have a massive correction from the distorted economy that it's been really since Nixon took us off the gold standard half a century ago. And we would have to completely abandon our world empire and have a limited constitutional republic, a humble commercial republic, and then we'd be just fine. As Ronald Reagan's UN ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick said, we could be a normal country in a normal time, but we have to give up all this corruption at the heart of it, America's central bank.
Yes, the bigger the government gets, the more corrupt it becomes. Man Panel, I want to thank you all for being gorgeous and filled with testosterone. Chris, Richard, and Scott, thank you all.
Thank you.
Kennedy.
Take care, Kennedy.
Thank you.